All right, listeners, before we jump into today's podcast, I just want to let you guys know that the Hometown Haunts and Hops Festival is back this year. After a huge success last year at Mayflower Brewery, we are going to be doing our second annual Hometown Haunts and Hops event on September 21st at Mayflower Brewery. The doors will be opening at 1. It'll run till about 7. Our lead guest will be John Kaser, the Crypt Keeper himself. It has been 35 years of Tales from the Crypt, and we're going to celebrate this year with him joining us for autographs and a panel. And beyond that, we're going to have a bunch of other live podcasts. We're going to have a retro video game area. We are going to have Tim Curry's screen-worn Pennywise costume from the original It series. We are going to have haunt-related vehicles such as Ecto-1, Raccoon City Police Cruiser, and even a 1984 Cadillac hearse on site for photo ops. We are going to have exclusive hot sauce, an exclusive action figure, beer releases, vendors. It is going to be a full day of fun at Mayflower Brewery. Tickets start at $25 for that day, but we're also going to be doing some movie showings the Friday night before. We're going to be showing WNUF Halloween Special at Dirty Water Distillery that Friday night. And over at Sour Not Sorry in downtown Plymouth, we're going to be showing Pennywise, the story of It, an award-winning documentary of the making of the original It TV show. So you can find all this information on our website, Inebri-art.com, and you can get your tickets there as well. It'll be a fun day. We had a great time last year. There's going to be food trucks and music, and it's just going to be a whole day to hang out and enjoy everything spooky. So we'll see you there. All
But
right.
also, I didn't want to mess up the introduction or anything, but I'll make sure I remember
So
my
it's
thought.
it's really funny about that. Pre-COVID, my big thing is I'm not interviewing anybody on, that if they're not in person, I don't want to interview them.
True.
And we wouldn't really do a intro. Like we would just kind of sit and like chit chat, and at some point they'd be like, "Are you recording?" And be like, "Yeah, we've been recording for like 20 minutes." Because I feel like people kind of like jump into like interview mode opposed to like
Right.
casual. Um, but you can't. It's hard to do that with Zoom.
Yeah.
So
Because it's all like almost like you're on when you're in front of the
yeah,
camera, even if
yeah.
it's not being recorded.
And then
So
you
I
get that
totally get
announcement
that.
where it's getting recorded, and so
It's
it's
just
hard
like
to
you
yeah.
clam up.
Yep. Or you just get like some people just are very chill and fun to chat with, but then they get very like sales pitchy, and you're just like,
Yeah.
that's no fun. But
I'm guilty of
listeners,
that
but listeners, we are recording.
sometimes.
So this is your host, Andy, as always. And I am with, usually I get pronunciations before. Let me try this.
Believe in you.
Tyler-Simone Molton,
That is perfect pronunciation. Yes,
singer.
Tyler-Simone.
Hang on. Singer of Lesibu Grand. Yeah.
10 out
Oh,
of
nice.
10.
I gotta say, whoever put together your website, I have a big thank you for because the pronunciation is like broken down on there.
Yeah, we came up with that. John and I, who are the co-founders slash co-creators of the songs and the band, we just decided to put that in there because Lesibu is actually my name. It's my middle name.
Okay.
Um, and it's a South African name, which is not very common in the US. So we just decided to get ahead of the curve and just put it out there to be like, this is how you say it.
Oh,
Because the worst
I
thing
can
is
only
having a,
imagine because I
yeah,
saw it and I was like, I have zero idea on how to say that.
yeah. But you actually said it spot on,
Yeah.
Lesibu. That's how you say it.
Well, that's because it was broken down very well.
Well, you're welcome.
Nice. So you guys are based out of Atlanta, and you have actually today your album drops today.
Yes, it's out.
Awesome. Thank you for taking the time out of what I'm assuming is going to be a busy day for you.
It already has been with just social media, but we have our album release show coming up next Friday. So we are gearing up for that. I had practice last night. That was really, coming up off of a high right now because it was a really good practice. So hopefully the show will be just as great as the practice. We have a couple more before we, hit the stage, but super excited. And yes, there's a lot to do, but
Yeah.
love taking out the time to talk to you because to your point earlier about just like being easy to talk to and having people that you have like an easy flow of conversation. I was going to compliment you on that. And I appreciate, just the
No.
conversationalist
Yeah.
that
Thank
you
you.
are.
Thank you so much.
Of
And I
course.
haven't said anything dumb yet. That's that'll happen, I'm sure. Um, but so the album's triggered. I'm not sure if I said that. I know we were kind
Yes.
of chit chatting a little bit beforehand. And as we were discussing, I was when I got into the office today, I put your music on to try and get like a vibe of what to expect, and I was kind of, I don't want to say taken aback. It wasn't what I was expecting based on your um promo photo. And I'm like, oh, she
Okay.
kind of reminds me of Blondie. And then like I looked at the PR and it's like, reference, and I think your website is like, oh, she's a big fan of Blondie and
Yeah.
Talking Heads, I think was in there. And I'm like, oh, I totally get
Yeah.
it now. And it was just
Oh,
like it
nice.
wasn't at all what I initially expect, but as soon as I heard it, I'm like, oh, this is it. It made me think of Blondie, and then I saw like Talking Heads. I'm like, it's that very like,
New wave.
yeah, I don't want to say pop punk because I feel like that's more like Green Day, but yeah, that new
Yeah, no, it's
wave.
definitely new wave and like post-punk to the,
Yeah,
punk aspects of it. But thank you so much for, the compliment because we, as a group, all the bandmates love Blondie and Talking Heads. And I actually got to see David Byrne perform at Shaky Knees Festival, which is a festival based in Atlanta
yeah.
and back pre-pandemic actually, and he was amazing. So we definitely draw inspiration from him on a performance level as well as our visuals and the sound.
Well, the visuals, the song that I was blanking on the name had a still image, which was you in a Jetsons flying car.
Oh, Anarchy.
Yeah, okay. Yep. And then the video that I was an older video was
Uh-huh.
Hot Glue Gun, and where
Yes,
you're in a pink Power Ranger costume and it has very like side scrolly video game aspects. And
very
I
much
was
that.
like, I feel like they're a bunch of nerds.
Nerd alert.
So
Yes.
I mean, you got Dragon Con down there. I mean, are you kind of like, was
So
that from
I
you or from the band, or like where did all that come from?
so my Power Ranger enthusiasm actually began as a young girl. Like when I was a kid, I remember wanting to be the pink Power Ranger, and that was
Yep.
just something that I guess stuck in my subconscious and then like went dormant and then came back to life, I guess, when we decided to do this music video. So as far as my nerd heart, it more goes towards like film nerdiness. So not as much with like Dragon Con, but I do enjoy dressing up and like doing cosplay as you've
Yeah.
seen. Um and yeah, I mean, we are all nerds at heart when it comes to music and art in general. So it definitely speaks out in the work.
Yeah, I mean, it just had like such a great, like it felt very tribute to video games, but had like a little bit of a like Scott Pilgrim vibe. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I
Um,
haven't seen Scott Pilgrim, but I know exactly what it looks like, and it is kind
yeah,
of like post-apocalyptic and like
yeah,
almost peaky though, and
yeah,
still comical, even though it's kind of like a terrifying situation, which is
yeah,
kind of our music
and,
too.
and it just like I mean, like I'm a Talking Heads fan. I
Yeah.
enjoy Blondie when I'm a huge Blondie fan, but it was just like check marking all the boxes. It's like I used to own a comic book shop, I'm a big nerd, and it's like so I was just
Wow.
like, oh, I was just like I was really enjoying it. So
Aw.
I'm now that your new album is dropped, I'm gonna have to give it like a solid listen through and um, you know, irritate my
It
kids by
definitely
putting it on in the car.
evolves.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like you mentioned two bands, there might be other, similarities you'll hear throughout. So like I would say for sure listen from start to finish and let us know what you think and
Hmm.
let us know if you hear other people. I mean, so with Anarchy, the song that you were talking about with the Jetsons flying car,
That was definitely
um,
more. Uh, that felt more punk
yes, I was
influenced.
going
Yeah.
to say people are saying that it sounds a lot like Rush, which I was scratching my head at
Really,
initially.
I would have
But if you
never made
listen
that
to the
comparison.
I would not have
Yeah.
either by any stretch, but if you listen to the first note, it actually is the same note as like the Tom Sawyer, like da dun da dun. It's
Yeah.
kind of a similar note, and so I think that's what people are hearing. But like I said, you'll hear a lot of variations of things. You'll also hear a Lady Gaga cover. So if you're a
Oh,
Lady
cool.
Gaga fan,
I
I
do
won't tell
really.
you which one it is, but you got to
I
listen and see.
is it like? All right. So I
If
do.
you guess it, I'll say yes.
Well, so this is my one question. Is it like
Okay.
one of her big hits? Because I like her music, but I'm only familiar with, the obvious ones like Poker Face and
Yeah,
uh,
no, for sure. It is one of the big hits. So, yes,
okay.
you'll definitely know what song it is.
Okay. Is it Applause?
I mean, I say that as a super Gaga fan. You said,
Okay.
what is it? Which one?
Is it Applause? I'm also bad with.
So, Poker Face and Applause are good guesses, but
Okay.
neither of those are correct.
Hmm. Okay. I don't know if I could pull any other. I'm
I'll give you
bad
one
with.
more guess.
Okay. All right. All right. Uh, Now I'm trying to remember the names of Lady Gaga songs. So there's Poker Face, there's Applause, there's oh man. Now I'm on the spot. I'm not supposed to be on the spot. This is my show, damn it. Um like I can remember.
I can give you a hint if you want.
Yeah, yeah, give me a hint.
So, I mean, this is kind of a big hint, but
Okay.
rah, rah,
Oh,
rah.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Now I'm not gonna be able to think of. I know exactly what one you're talking about, yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to come up with the title of that. That's like one of her biggest ones, right?
Want your bad romance?
Yes. Okay. All right.
I
Now,
had to give
all
it
right.
away.
Yeah, yeah. Thank God, because otherwise this would have been a very long podcast of me trying to remember.
It's
Um,
like, can you guess that Gaga cover? We changed the name of it.
it's always nice to have a game inside of a
I
podcast.
love games.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Um,
also where my nerdiness lies is like games, but not video games, just like
are
card
you like
games.
a
Like I love Taboo and I love Connect Four.
nice?
And those are probably like Connect Four is my number one fave.
Really?
And then second to Taboo. Yeah.
When I was married, we used to play categories, but we used to play it
Ooh.
so much that it kind of took the fun out of it because like
Oh, it was
you
like a
roll the
chore.
well no but like you roll the dice and the dice would be like M and you'd look at the list and you'd be like, okay, what are the ones that I know for this list for M? Like you kind of like had
Right.
them already. So yeah, I haven't played in a long time. That'd be fun. I love tabletop games. It is one of my absolute favorite. So I'm a divorced dad and I was like a weekend
Oh.
dad. And no, no, it's not like divorces are great.
No, awe is like a oh, that's
Oh,
sweet
oh,
because you said you're a dad. That was
yeah.
the awe.
But I didn't have a lot to, has kind of just like pulling my life back together. And so I would spend, 25, $30 on a game that we could play every weekend. And, like once a month or every other month, then I'd buy a new game. And, my kids are huge into tabletop games and we're super close. And I think it's because, your kids don't, they'd be like, I want to go to Disney, but they really want to spend time with you. That was my theory. And it's
True.
just like sitting at the table playing a game with them, I think it meant a ton to me and hopefully it meant a ton to them. So
I'm sure it did. They're
yeah.
gonna remember those times fondly for sure.
Yeah. So I
How old
told
are
you,
they?
so my son is 22
Oh wow,
and
they're grown.
yeah, they're I have adults, not kids.
You're
Um,
children who aren't children anymore.
yeah, yeah.
That's a movie quote from Robert De Niro. Have you ever seen the movie Everybody's Fine?
No.
It's such an obscure movie and an
Yeah.
obscure quote, so it's okay that you don't know it, but
I do stuff
it
like
was
that
just
all the
funny.
time where I'll quote something and you get that one person who like responds and you're like, oh my God, I can't believe you picked that up.
They get it.
Yeah. But my youngest is 20. So
Oh, wow.
when they turned 18, I'm like, all right, guys, I'm not legally obligated to love you anymore. I'm like, I do, but I'm just not legally obligated.
I'm doing this as a choice.
Yeah, exactly. So
That's hilarious.
yeah, they're great. They so our 400th episode, they actually interviewed me. So that was like our
Aw,
yeah, it was
that's
fun.
so cool. Are
Yeah.
they also like artists or what did they do?
So my son played saxophone through like junior high and high school
Uh-huh.
and is a big music fan, but hasn't really done anything other than I don't want to say done anything, that's rude, but like he hasn't continued
He's
on
a
with it.
failure.
Yeah. My youngest is an artist and does printing and designing at a t-shirt company. So
That's so cool. Do
yeah.
they also live in Massachusetts or?
Oh yeah, yeah. They're like it's so I told you like right before I just moved our office and
Uh-huh.
actually our office is closer to them now, so I kind of weirdly see them more, which is nice
Aw,
because
that is
everyone's
nice.
yeah, so they're good kids. Or adults.
That's
They're good
amazing.
adults. Yeah.
No, I totally get it. I literally live across the street from my mom, who's also my momager, so I'm very close with
Your
her and
momager?
yes, like a
Okay.
Christian or situation, but
Yeah.
not as invasive. Um, because no, thank you. I just, I like to keep people who I trust nearby, and I have a good relationship with my mom, and she's knowledgeable in some aspects of things that I'm not. So it's nice to have someone be just like a second set of eyes and ears sometimes. But
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and that's I it's one of those things that like one of the proudest moments I feel like not as a parent but as like for, where I'm proud of myself, which is a weird thing
mhm.
because I'm not usually that kind of person, but is when they reach out to me asking me advice because you're like, oh my God, I didn't screw you up entirely. Like you still trust me, you know?
Aw,
And
yeah.
it's just like, it's a really sweet thing when it happens. And, so does your mom manage like the band or,
No, she just
uh,
manages me as an individual contributor musician.
yeah.
So we don't really, we like our self-managed band, mainly with myself and John Renault, who's like also an entertainment lawyer, which is probably boring to the podcast, but whatever. We're just talking about life.
Yeah.
Um, and so funny story is how I met John is through my mom because she and John used to work together and she used to work in the legal department with him and they knew each other since I was like a teenager.
Hmm.
So I met him as basically like a 14-year-old kid, but as my mom's coworker. And then years later, we run into each other and I like see him in a crowd at a like a concert. We went
Yeah.
to a show at the Earl, which is ironically where we're having our album release show.
Oh, that's
Um,
cool.
yeah, it's such a full circle moment. And I like noticed him and I was like, are you John Renault? And then he's like, Jennifer, which is my sister's name.
Oh
And I was like,
man. You're
that's
like
not me,
close.
but close.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm Tyler. And then we just started talking and we were like both at different bands at the time. Like I was singing background for another band and he was doing his band Cadillac Jones, which is like a jazz band,
Hmm.
all instrumental. And I was like, oh, what if we did like a collab? Or he may have said it first and then we just started talking about it and like we got together months later for coffee and just like really logistically planned things and then had our first practice and then the rest is history.
That's
So
awesome.
it's kind of like thanks to my mom, I got to Lesibu Grand or Lesibu Grand happened, which is, it's a start to something new because after all that time, we're just now putting out our very first LP, which is a really big deal for us. So
And especially where you're like self-managed, it I've talked to so many musicians and authors and whatnot. It I feel like so many of them would be further along, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just, if you're Metallica and you record your
mhm.
album and you kind of check out, like you have a publicist, you have someone to do all the graphic design work to make t-shirts, you have the person who's going to call the company to be like, why aren't the records pressed on time? But like with your self
Yeah.
manager, you have to do all of that, and that's how do you divide that labor amongst John and the other bandmates, or is there like one
Well,
person for
so
that?
by luck and grace, we actually are having support in those ways that you mentioned. So we are signed by a label, so technically we do have support.
Okay.
Kill Rock Stars is who is basically doing all those little things, like and now I'm like, oh wow, I'm taking it for granted, but it really isn't to be
Yeah.
taken for granted. We have Sarah who does our PR, which I believe is how you and I got connected, is
Yeah.
through Sarah. And so big ups to Kill Rock Stars and to Charm School Media for just like being the team behind the Lesibu Grand team. So yeah, it's definitely a team effort. I would not by any means say we're independent on that side of things, just more so about booking shows and like our creative direction with music videos and like our releases. That's more of the independent side. Because a lot of times with the major labels, they do control some of those components,
Mm-hmm.
just because they bring in songwriters and like the artist themselves doesn't really get to be the artist. They're kind of just like the pawn.
Yeah.
Um, and so we definitely are free from that, which is good. And I hope to, keep putting out very authentic and Lesibu Grand branded stuff. Not to sound too sales pitchy.
No, it's fine. But so how long have you been working on the album? Because I feel like a lot of stuff coming out now is kind of from COVID work, where
Right.
was this like,
hmm
had
Some
you,
of it is, some of it's very new. Some of it was recorded earlier this year, and then some of it was recorded as early as 2020. So it's been a 4 year in the making project, and it's definitely, so it does have a few songs that we've already released, but just not on an album.
mm-hmm,
And then we have like brand new songs that haven't been released at all. And we're trying to do music videos for those songs just to kind of we are big music video people. I feel like visually we have a lot to say. So and we kind of use it as a juxtaposition to the song lyrics because some of the songs are a little bit heavy. So we think putting a music video with it is more digestible.
mm-hmm.
And it's just another way to express. But yeah, I don't know if I answered the question at all, but that's
That's
my response.
well, it made me think of when I was watching um the hot glue gun video. I'm like, wow, this isn't fluff. Like there was some real stuff in there. And then I had to go back and see when the video went up because it's very video game like, and you're fighting like bodyguards and whatever, and you work up to the final boss, which all I'm gonna say is you turn him into a orange Cheeto, which there's a certain
Yes.
human being alive who's been called Orange Cheeto many a times. Um, and like you shoot him with a ray gun, and I was like, ugh, it, like because of recent events, were you ever like, oh, that didn't age well, or like, was there
Yeah.
any thought about that?
So I'm gonna just be frank with you and say, actually, this is the first time I actually thought about the connection for that specific incident, just
Yeah,
because you saw the year on the video. That was obviously predating that incident.
yeah. Which is why I'm
Um,
like, okay, I can bring this up because it wasn't a intention,
it's
and
not
it's
like he got shot and then we made
right,
that video.
right,
That would
right.
have been really messed up, and
And like
even
the
I
ray gun
wouldn't do
turns
that.
him into a Cheeto, so I'm like, oh, that's fine. But it's just like I just saw it and I was like, ooh, and then I
That
looked at the
is
year.
exactly
So
why. So, yes, to your point, we did think about how that was presented even prior to the, shooting that happened.
mhm.
We didn't want it to seem like we were trying to shoot a president point blank period, because that's
Yeah,
just, we don't do that. But or shoot anyone for that matter. But it was just more of a interpretation of using a tool that we're talking about the whole song, Hot Glue
mhm.
Gun, to change something into a different form and kind of more so change them into its original and more authentic form, just as a metaphorical sense, because obviously we know that Donald Trump is not an actual Cheeto. However, he's a little hollow and he's a little orange and he's a little. crunchy, I guess.
crunchy and useless calories.
Yeah, empty
Yeah,
calories. There
yeah,
we go.
yeah.
That's even harsher than what I said, but yeah,
Well,
I'll
I'm not
take
a
it.
fan. I don't have a problem saying that. Um,
Yeah. But yeah,
but
no, definitely understanding the criticism that might come along with that. And I'm fully fine to respond to it to say, obviously, we do not condone shooting people because otherwise we would have shot him in the video. That's like
right,
what
yeah,
you would have seen because we specifically chose not to do that because of our belief systems as individuals and as, what we're putting out there publicly.
yeah. But I like that. It felt very like I remember I was in high school when Rage Against the Machine's album dropped, and I
Yeah.
like politically charged music, and you know I, I've gotten quieter in my old age, but more just because I'm like I don't feel like arguing about this, but like I have zero problem if someone brings it up, be like, all right, here we go.
Right.
It's just I feel there was I'm gonna call him an acquaintance online, and he was a flat earther, and I would always get into these
Gosh.
long drawn out, debates on Facebook, and my friend is like, you're not gonna change his mind, and I'm like, no, but other people are gonna read this, and if you don't speak out, then it goes unchecked, and the other person might just be like, oh, they have a good point, opposed to
Yeah.
like, so it's
No, that's super true. And I think that I need to learn how to do that more because for me, I'm more of a just be an observer type and then come to my conclusions. So, and not to say that you're not thinking things through, but you are taking that action and saying something that is factual or challenging whatever someone else is saying to show that there are multiple views, meaning that you have to confirm your sources at the end of the day. Like,
absolutely,
yeah.
yeah.
So I will take a page out of your book and start doing
Yeah.
that.
And it varies. Like there are, the random guy who's, yelling on the street corner. I'm not going to engage that guy. No good is
It's
going to
like, come
come from
on,
that.
guy, let's
Yeah.
bring it down to Jesus. I
Yeah.
mean, the street corner guy needs love too,
I
Andy.
know,
Like,
but I don't need to argue with him. But I
he wants to
recently
debate.
had and I really, really like this particular kind of debate. It was me and someone that I would definitely call a friend, maybe even a good friend. We were sitting having a beer, and we started, which you generally not talk about politics at the bar. That's not like it's kind of frowned upon. I don't know how we got there.
Right.
And
Well, sorry to interrupt you, but
oh
I
yeah,
just wanted to
oh,
say real quickly to that point, my mom and I were literally just talking about how back in her day, because she's born in the 70s, and so she's like, in my day, we never talked about religion, politics, or money, but now it's like that's all we talk about. Like if you
yeah,
meet somebody and don't talk about it, it's a problem.
yeah.
So it's so funny.
I remember when I was a kid, I asked my mother how much she made, and she got mad. And I'm like, I'm just trying to understand. Like, as a
Right. Pay
kid,
transparency, mom.
yeah, like I just trying to understand, like, what does a grown up make? Um,
Hmm.
but and so I don't remember exactly how we got on the topic, but he is voting Trump, and
Oh, wow.
he was like, how do we get along and just not see eye to eye on this issue?
Hmm.
And so then we had, a debate where like it was amongst friends, and we kind of like called each other out when we were wrong. And but at the end, it was like shake hands, hug, love you, man. Like no, and
Yeah.
that's honestly that is really what is missing.
Yes.
It's too
And
easy to vilify everybody.
100%. There's a YouTube channel called, or I don't remember the name of the channel. I think it's actually Jubilee is the name of the channel, and then they do like middle ground debates, and so they have like opposing people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called Middle Ground is the name of the series, and then it's on the channel Jubilee.
Okay.
But they have various debates with different people, like hundreds of episodes, and we were watching one Democrats versus it was like white liberals versus black conservatives, and they had a conversation. And it's exactly what you're saying with you and your friend, where you guys can call each other out and, have civil discourse. It is hard on certain topics for civil discourse because emotions are just bound to get involved. But I do think it's, important to really rationalize things
Hmm.
at the end of the day, because that's the only way progress will happen. Um, and it's understandable why people feel irrationally. And I think it's just healthy to be with your feelings and do whatever action that you think for yourself is the best action,
Yeah.
and then try to inspire others to be the change you want to see. That's my philosophy, and
Yeah.
I'm sticking to it.
And by the end of the conversation, I didn't agree with his perspective, but I
Right.
understood, and he was basically going on the fact of there were no wars under Donald Trump. And I'm like, I mean, like, yeah, that's not totally true. And it's like, is that a just because
Is
he was
that
in
because Trump made policies, or is that because the previous administration made policies that Trump inherited?
exactly, or did Trump buckle to the pressure of anybody, all these hostile, so it was kind of like that was my point then, is like that's correlation not causation. So it's like,
Right.
just because that happened, there might have been no pandas born while during the Trump presidency, it doesn't
But
mean
that's
he
not
stopped
his
it.
credit.
Yeah. So it's
LOL at the pandas.
yeah, so like it was like a really good conversation at the end. I'm like, okay, I can at least understand why you're voting that way. I don't agree with it. I think there's far more pressing issues, in regards to it. But I was like, okay, you can rationalize. Like he had a rationale for it, and he could speak to it. It's the people that just, you know, go off the deep end and have nothing real to say that I don't have time for.
Yeah,
You know,
it's the nothing real to say, but this person that has nothing real to say is actually the person your friend's voting for. So that's also a problem, but it is what
I
it is.
yeah, I yes, I do understand that. Yeah,
It's like a pot kettle, but
yeah,
it is
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Also, I am actually fascinated with your soundproofing because it looks like a Super Mario game. It
Yeah,
looks
I get
like
it. I was
it
thinking
just does.
uh I didn't plan it this way, but it makes me think of Minecraft.
Yes,
And
it
I
does
don't
think like
yeah.
it does look like Minecraft too.
So
I could see that.
I set this up specifically to shoot this because over there it's not done yet.
Trust me, over
Yeah.
there is not done yet either.
Yeah, we've only been in our new office about 2.5 months, and it's just been trying to like, moving's the worst.
Yeah, no, we're actually gearing up to move. My boyfriend and I are moving to New York. And before you ask, it doesn't mean the band is breaking up. On the contrary, it just means we're taking the show on the road. So stay tuned.
Nice.
But yeah, so that's why the house is cluttered because,
Yeah.
we just have a lot of packing to do.
Ugh,
And yeah,
it's no fun.
so fun.
It's no, it's terrible. Um, so you're moving to New York. What is the music scene in, because you're in the Atlanta area, right?
Yeah, Atlanta's music scene is actually reflective of a few cities, in my opinion. I would say we have pockets of different genres, but for the rock scene, it's more metal and even more folk, more so than indie, which we're like indie rock strictly with a little
Yeah.
bit of punk, I guess you could say. Um, and I feel like, I don't know, we will find success playing shows in other cities. We have played a few other cities. We've done Austin, we've done Swanee, Florida, we've done Birmingham, Alabama, we've done Atlanta, of course, and I feel like there's another city that we've
So you
done,
don't
but I
come up
can't. Oh
north
yeah.
much?
Yeah, we haven't been up north,
Yeah.
and I hope to change that because now that I'm going to be there, it's going to be a lot easier to just like talk to people and make those connections and getting shows booked.
Yeah.
Because as we were saying earlier about the self-management thing, like that is one thing that we are handling on our own is booking shows. So we have to just like book shows any way we can for now without getting a booking agent.
So are you moving to New York City or New York State?
State. I want to be out of the city for a little bit so my
Okay.
creative juices can re integrate my body because I've been in the city for the past 5 years.
Because I was gonna
So
say New York City, I feel like you'll have no problem finding a venue that.
we'll definitely
Yeah.
be accessible to the city.
Okay.
So um definitely going out there during the week, but just retreating to the countryside,
Yeah.
the suburbs.
And John Renard, did I get that right?
Renault.
Renault, sorry. He's a New Englander.
Yes, he is. He's
Yeah.
from Connecticut.
Oh, all right.
Not, but he did go to college in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
so he definitely knows the Boston area. He lived there for 4 years, probably, like during
Yeah.
college.
I can't speak to Connecticut, but I know Boston, the South Shore has a really strong music area or music
Hmm.
um uh scene.
Scene.
And Rhode Island is pretty, I feel like Rhode Island might be a lot of like metal, but
Okay.
they have um they have a big jazz festival there every year, like a huge one. Yeah, it's I've grown up in this area my whole life, and music has always been a part of it. Um, from I played in junior high and high school and elementary school, and
Right.
where we're based out of Plymouth, there's you can see live music pretty much every night of the week at somewhere. And
Oh, wow.
you're in a bar, a cover musician, and then we have some performing arts centers, and Plymouth Memorial Hall. Dylan played there in the '60s, and
Oh,
uh,
wow.
yeah, so we've gotten some. They seem to be like on an upswing that they've gotten some really big acts through, but there's a lot going on here, and so I've always been a
You
music fan.
said
So
Plymouth Memorial Hall.
yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna check that place out. I mean,
Um,
honestly, on the way up, we have to pass. Well, we don't really pass Massachusetts, but we'll be in that region, so you
yeah,
might see
we're
us in
not we're
Plymouth.
not far. Memorial Hall is a bigger venue.
It's
Um,
like Madison Square Garden or something like that.
no.
Okay.
I think it's like I want to say it's either like 3 or 5,000 people.
Okay,
Like
that's
it's
big, but it's
sizable.
not
Yeah,
like astronomical, but
yeah.
like aisle five or something like that.
No, but like I think Joni Mitchell's played there. Art Garfunkel, Air Supply plays there a lot for some reason.
Wow.
And
I
then
don't think I've listened to Air Supply.
I the first album I got as a child was Air Supply's Greatest Hits, and I don't know
Oh,
why.
wow.
Like I think it was just like one song that I heard somewhere. Um, but then we have like there's another place called this
Oh,
Spire Performing Arts Center, which is 2 blocks away, and that's
oh, wow.
maybe like 500 seats.
Okay,
And it's
that's more digestible.
they just redid the outside. It's an old church, um, and so it looks gorgeous. And then like inside, you sit in pews, but they
Hmm.
have like cushions, so they're comfortable. And they have like
Oh,
stained
wow.
glass on the back of it, so they like really lean into the old church thing. And
I see. It's like
it's
a church, but a different kind of church.
yeah, it's an old church that the organization that runs it is a nonprofit, and they're like, let's turn it into a performing arts center so it's not disused and unused. And
That's
I think I
beautiful.
there's a recording studio downstairs at one point, and
Oh, wow.
yeah,
You
and
said it's called Plymouth Art Center?
the Spire Performing Arts Center. Yeah.
I'm just writing these things down so I can look them
Yeah.
up later.
Yeah, but it, it's no joke. Like really there is a very strong music vibe here. Like every Wednesday during the summer, right next to Plymouth Rock, there's free concerts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's I mean you're
Plymouth Rock would be amazing to perform on because I don't know if you know like the famous expression that I don't even know who said it, and it might have been Malcolm X, but he's like, "We didn't land on
Plymouth Rock.
Plymouth Rock
Yep.
landed
It
on
was
us."
it was
It was Malcolm X.
it was. And if Malcolm X was that familiar with Plymouth Rock, he'd be like, "All right, I need something heavier." Plymouth Rock.
Oh,
It is.
is it a little puny?
It is. the most disappointing national attraction.
Oh,
um, yeah, it's we actually it's so interesting. We did a episode on one of our other shows about it. Because all the locals are like, yeah, it's fake, it's not real, and then so there's like a huge. It's like the person who said that is Plymouth Rock, that is the first rock, was
uh-huh.
like he was a boy when the like last of the original pilgrims were like elderly.
Oh, wow.
So like the elderly pilgrims told this little boy who then was elderly and was like, "That's the rock." So is it?
Oh,
Isn't
oh.
it? But it's got a really interesting history, and yeah, pretty much everyone who comes up, they look down because it's like sunken down, and people like look and go, "Oh, I thought it would be
That's Plymouth
bigger."
Rock.
Yeah, yeah. But and the nice thing is, it's the reason why people come here. But there's so much more to do that you know, it's a great town.
I'm definitely going to put that on places to visit.
Yeah, if
Thank
you
you.
swing by, like, let us know for sure.
Yes,
Um, this has been all over the road, like most of our
I
episodes.
know.
I feel like I talked more about Plymouth. Um, but so Triggered LP, will it be like out on vinyl, like CD, like?
It'll be out on CD initially for the first run. I think we're gonna get vinyl pressed later in the year, but we're doing CD for now and then all digital platforms. And yeah, get it, stream it. It's out now,
It's out
literally out
now.
today. It's
Stop
like
listening to this
out.
podcast and go do it right now because I think
Go
this will be
stream
going up in
Triggered.
about. I think this is going to be going out in 2 weeks. So it's been out for it's. I believe it's the number one charting album out right now.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. They it was the underdog of the year. They
Yeah.
didn't see it coming. None of the top 40 hits saw it even in their radar.
um, no, I wish you guys the best of luck with that and the
Thank
move.
you.
And I mean, are you going to be touring to support the album? Like, is that already in the works? Or?
So I can't really speak too much to the touring details, but I think initially we'll just be playing, you know, local stuff and
Mm-hmm.
then trying to push the album as much as we can, and then hopefully do a tour later in the probably not until next year, but later on during the release.
And people can go to your website. Ellie,
Yes,
is it
keep up
just?
to date with us on all our streaming or all our streaming platforms, sorry. Social media
Yeah.
platforms at Lesibu Grand, Lesibu Grand, two words. And yeah, we post about all our shows and subscribe to our newsletter if you want to stay real plugged in because we send out cute little emails whenever we're doing stuff.
Nice. I that is we have an emailing list and I always tell people I'm like we send out a monthly email. The last one came out 4 months ago.
I mean, that's also true, but
Yeah.
we're going to try to do better this quarter.
Yeah. Nice. Well, Tyler, thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Yes, this has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me, and I hope to see you in Plymouth
Yeah, yeah. And if you come to town, let us know. We'll let the locals know and they should check it out.
for sure.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
So listeners, you can find us again back here next Monday with a brand new episode. I hope. I think I have some things lined up to schedule to record. So we'll see you guys again next week.
Peace.
And thanks for checking out the show today, listeners. If you enjoyed the content today, you can go over to patreon.com/Inebri-art to support the show. You can join over there for just a few dollars a month and help us provide this fun content that you just checked out. You can also email us at Inebri-art.com with your questions, complaints, and concerns, or you can find us on all social medias at Inebri-art or at Inebri-art6 on Instagram. And also don't forget to check out our other shows, Bar Talk Podcast, Old Colony Cast, Inebri-art, and all the other shows on the Inebri-art Network, which you can find at Inebri-art.com. Thanks again for listening.